I didn't know when it was going to become something, but I was obsessed with the name Great Collab. And I would say to my friends, even like, we'd be like, oh, let's go get dinner at this place. And I'd be like, oh, it'd be such a great collab. And so it was kind of like this phrase I threw around. Yeah, there's like definitely a long origin story behind getting here.
Hello and welcome to Future Commerce, the podcast at the intersection of culture and commerce. I'm Brian.
I'm Philip, and hey, before we get started today, Brian, I put on my Visions shirt.
Oh man, I should have worn mine.
By the time, well, you're actually the one who got dressed for this call because of this. I look dumpy, but I put it on to remind myself. We are, at the time of this recording, will be about 2 weeks when you all listen to this and when you watch it on YouTube, 2 weeks from our annual MoMA event, and that's Visions Summit. It's coming to New York City, June 11th. Don't miss it. Tickets are probably sold out. So maybe you could stand outside with a sign or something that says, if you have Visions tickets, let us know. But hey, just in case there is one or two spots that we opened up for you, yeah, go on StubHub. I'm sure they're there. But just in case, go and see the lineup. It's going to be incredible. And I hear, a little birdie told me, all the content from Vision Summit will be making its way to the Future Commerce Plus program. And so if you're a member at Future Commerce Plus, you'll get it all on the backside of that event. But we'd love to have you there in person, futurecommerce.com/visions. And we'll see you there, and can't wait to see you in New York City at the Museum of Modern Art. Today, we have an incredible guest, somebody who we've known for a couple of years now, and who was sort of there at the beginning and did a great collab, if you will, with between us and her former employer, Thing Testing. These days, she is I think breaking down the world of cultural events and brand partnerships, and also a little bit of the explainer content that's telling people, I think, broad consumers about how the world of business works and how companies have show repeated success by creating and maintaining cultures that hire and create amazing talent. Of course, it's Emma Apple Chozick. Welcome to the show, Emma. Glad to have you finally.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
And you are like incredible on the TikTok and social media game right now. Tell us what you've been working on.
Yeah, so for the last 6 months, in November, I started posting on TikTok. I was still at Thing Testing at that time and wanted to just learn the platform. I feel like it was so interesting to me that a lot of brands that we worked with at Thing Testing, like some of them were popping off on TikTok and other brands just like weren't hitting, but people seemingly were posting quite similar content and like to me. And so I was like, I wonder how this platform really works. Like, why does this happen? And I just like had this curiosity that I was like, let me just try this out. So I committed to posting for 30 days on TikTok, 1 video a day. Ended up posting 84 videos in the first month and grew a following of 10K people. And it just like started something for me. I really wanted to talk about, I was already doing so much curation at Thing Testing, obviously, and wanted to talk about brands in a way like that I didn't see anyone doing it online. I felt like there was a lot of kind of consumer experts on the internet, and I don't really consider myself to be a consumer expert, even though I spend a lot of time with consumer brands. I think everyone is an expert of their own thing. And I just wanted to be like someone approachable to talk about what brands were up to. Obviously, I had a lot of like knowledge because I get a lot of press releases. So I knew what launches were coming. And so started posting. Obviously, it kind of like blew up, took on a life of its own. And over time started getting inbound freelance work, did a couple of freelance projects. And at the end of February, decided that I should just take the leap. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Grace Clark, an amazing consultant.
Yep.
And
friend of the pod.
She sent me, or she sent a lot of people, but she sent me her planning guide that she was doing for 2024.
Yes, yeah.
And
so cool.
I've never really done a plan like that before. It's very like regimented. It's very organized. And I sat down to do it over 3 days. And like the big thing that was like a theme for me was like, take the leap. And I didn't know what that was going to mean. And it just like kept coming up for me, and did take like quite a big leap, leaving my full-time job, deciding to go freelance. And so now I've been working with design-led brands across commerce, hospitality, and tech focusing very specifically kind of on this world between community building, content strategy, and strategic partnerships. And now we're here.
Congrats.
That's so cool. Wow.
Thank you.
You took the leap. Congratulations.
I took the leap. Yeah. A big one.
Yeah.
That's such a cool thing to do. It's so much like motivation to do that. It takes a lot of, well, really guts to make that jump. So congratulations. And
Thank you.
also 84 videos in 30 days. That's impressive. I can't help but
teach us how to do that.
Yeah, like how did that evolve? I'm sure it evolved very quickly as you started to get into it. Like, what was your first video number 1 versus video 84? What was the arc that you took to get to where you're at now?
Yeah, so I had in my notes page on my phone, literally just on my iPhone for months, ideas of this could be a cool TikTok, or I just and I always joked that I kind of think in TikToks, and I was not on TikTok in 2020. I think every other Gen Z was deep on TikTok doing dance videos. I was my For You page is bad. It's not anything I like. And then about a year ago, I started realizing that you actually have to curate your For You page. And so I started typing in chairs, Danish design,
yes.
the stuff that I wanted to see. I had to you have to train your algorithm. And so that started to happen. And then I kind of started being there's not really anything on here that I'm that excited about though. Nothing that feels like an interest in my day-to-day life. There was funny, silly videos that I was watching. And so I created this notes page where I was just jotting down ideas. And the first video I ended up doing was about Rocco, the smart drinks fridge brand that launched, which actually is now a client of mine. So it's very full circle. But yeah, that was the first video I did, and it took off. It in the first couple of hours, it had 30K views. And I was okay, I have 300 followers on this platform. Interesting. Wow. And then people kind of were hey, can you do any more launch videos? And it happened to be a very fruitful week in launches at Thing Testing. So we had the Rocco launch, and then Tulip, which is a shade that covers boob lights, if you're familiar with the that ugly light that's in every apartment.
Brian has a boob light above him right now, I think.
I think I do.
Yeah.
Oh my God. we got to get a Tulip, I guess. So I did a video about that, and it was definitely very much these were two design forward brands that were existing, and people were just eating it up. They were can you do renter friendly brands? Can you do this? And in the beginning, I wanted to listen to what people wanted because I didn't really know what I wanted. I was posting every day. I was basically posting a video of something new that I wanted to introduce, and then kind of answering to comments. And I think I created this kind of community that I didn't really think could exist on TikTok. So by the end of the first month, I had people who were commenting on all my videos being oh my God, you did another one, do another one. And I think being someone who was and is approachable and I'm not here to act like I know more than you, people really took a liking to that. Because there's obviously on the internet, there's a lot of experts, and sure. I just didn't care to do that.
I'm the internet's creative director. There's interesting stuff like that as approaching things from that element of curiosity rather than just saying, I'm a there. I don't know if you have any hot takes or if you have any points of view around having started a content creation journey after the era of everybody's a curator, everybody's some sort of an expert in these emergent behaviors or community.
We're post this era?
Right. I think we are post this era. I think it's post the era's discourse. That's for sure.
I mean, listen, my job was head of curation at a company. And I think I do feel that gave me a bit of confidence in what I was doing because I felt I didn't want to outwardly come out and say, this is what I do for a living and this is who I am and I'm the expert. What I wanted to happen was for people who wanted to do more research or I kind of plugged things here and there that felt maybe strategic, or like moments to kind of up my credibility. So like if I was talking about design and there was a story that I had written for Architectural Digest, I might like plug in, oh, and I actually wrote about this for AD. And so like these moments of credibility without being like, I'm the expert on this topic. And also like admitting like, hey, I just found out about this brand. Does anyone else know about it? Or like, let me tell you about it because I'm super excited about this.
There's just looking at our content, Brian, on our YouTube, our top 5 videos are all brand launch critiques. So there's something really interesting and like sort of inherently sort of mimetic about that is, if you want to get the early interest in something, having an unfair advantage, certainly on the content that's coming and being able to prepare for it and find an interesting avenue. I think it's always harder, and this is what's so impressive, Emma, it's always harder to then find a voice outside of that that's dependent on a newsbound ecosystem, because there has to be a bigger story. So let's talk a bit about like the journey and the sort of the broadening of the content and this notes doc. How did you sort of test your content strategy over that month? And what have you learned since that you feel like you hadn't anticipated would be interesting pieces of content that you could go deep on?
Yeah, so I had no content strategy, and this was very intentional because everything I do is like, I care a lot about doing a good job at things. And this was like the first time where I was actually like it was not only a challenge to like post on a new platform and like put myself out there and like do video content, but it was also a challenge in like no rules, no KPIs. And I was kind of like, if I want to post an outfit of the day one, like in the beginning, there was like a lot of different things happening. Obviously the videos that did really well and, you know, now became kind of my content style were like these green screen style, educational-ish with like a bit of an opinion, but also like the quick visuals changing. That became the content style. And now when I don't have a green screen, I like always joke that I feel like I'm like naked. I'm like I can't post anything without a green screen. But there was no strategy. Like I wasn't trying to become a content creator. I wasn't trying to get brand deals. I actually like when I first was getting inbound, it was a lot of like people wanting me to post about their products. And then something shifted in that first month. And I think it happened during Art Basel actually. So it was actually the second month, because in the second month I doubled my following. So I hit 20K in the second month. And then from there, obviously it's been 6 months now and I have 35K followers, but it slowed down the pace of growth. And I also was not posting 84 videos a month after the first month. It was not a sustainable way to be posting content. But it was really interesting that during Art Basel, I decided to post this video of like, here's a roundup of 10 things that you should see during Art Basel. And some of it was like pretty small niche things. I wasn't going based off of like what wallpaper was posting or like what AD was posting. I kind of was like, here's a bunch of invites I got. I obviously don't have as many invites as like the big design people, but like this is stuff that I think could be interesting. And that video blew up. It got 100K plus views in like the first 24 hours. And I had big brands reaching out to me and everyone wanted me to post about what they were doing. And I realized that there was like a lot of currency to what I was doing. And the opportunity to like take it in a lot of directions. But I also realized that I could use this platform to become like more of a curator and more of and gain credibility through it versus like, let me just do money grabs for brand deals. That just like didn't feel authentic to me, especially coming from thing testing where like everything I did was uncurated. Like thing testing really stood on this whole idea of like being unbiased. And like, we didn't even have affiliate for the first 2.5 years I was there.
I think that's so important is and maybe this kind of pivots us over to some of the other content too, but when you're thinking about there's a short-term opportunity that we all have in business and in brand building where you can quickly and probably pretty effectively monetize some opportunity. But if you think long-term, the question really begins to make itself apparent is that a viable strategy over the long term? How do I grow a very trustworthy audience? How do I have a relationship with an audience if my entire relationship on them from the very get-go is based on a some commercial nature? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I'm not like, no one's a bigger fan of commerce than me. Yay, capitalism. But the other side of that is, this is this side of brand building. It's not just personal brand building. It's like authority in being able to say something and being able to have the authority later on when you do strike brand deals to say, I am going to have an opinion about this. And regardless of the nature of our commercial relationship, I'm going to speak my mind on this. And the reason you're still going to partner with me, even if I say something that you don't like, is because I have the authority, and that's what makes me trustworthy. And that's what makes, when I say something positive, that much more reliable. And I've seen that happen in larger creator accounts over time, that the longer they wait to monetize that relationship with their audience, the more sustainable and the greater, I think, opportunity exists in the future for them for that. But I'm sure you also have a consulting side of the business. So there's all these ways for you to make a living out of this. Let's talk about that opportunity. How are you thinking about building out something beyond just or are you thinking about doing something bigger than just freelance at the moment? What's happening on that side?
Yeah. So on the like, Great Collab now has quite a bit of like brand equity because we have the TikTok. I launched a Substack, which also is like a constant question in my mind of like, when do you monetize that? Do you monetize that?
Mm-hmm.
People can pledge, and I have quite a few pledges, which is like, very flattering. But if you're funneling people from different channels, like there's a lot of questions that come up about when to monetize. And I don't know if anyone has like the right answer. I thought you were about to say like what the answer was, and I was very excited for this moment. So if you
when it's existential, that's the answer. when it's the absolute last resort. Although Brian's always pushing us to monetize more early. But
I mean, gotta make money. That's
healthy tension. Sorry, you were saying. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think if it was a year ago and I had this opportunity, like it's so easy to say when you're not in the position where it'd be like, oh yeah, if I had X amount of followers on an account, of course I'd monetize it. But then you're like, wait, I want these people to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
I want these people to stick around.
Yeah.
And I want to be really thoughtful and intentional about the way that I built this. So what does that look like? And let's take it one step at a time and like figure it out. And also, if a brand comes along that I love, hey, IKEA, and you want to partner, like, and you want to pay me for it, like, let's do it. Like, whoever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a brand that I don't really resonate with, then it's much more challenging for me to even think about what that could look like. But on the consulting side, it unfolded very organically kind of over the past couple of months, but Great Collab was an idea that I had many years back. When I was in college, even before that, I've always been obsessed with like brand partnerships and brand collaborations. I wrote about this in my newsletter last week, but my family used to stay at the Standard in the East Village a lot when I was a kid. And I just always was obsessed with like the hospitality experience there. They were always doing really cool collaborations. And there's obviously a lot of big brands that were doing cool collaborations, but like that was my kind of like introduction to brand partnerships. And I just always thought like, of course brands should be doing partnerships. It's like, and it's not just about brand to brand. Like I think about partnerships as people to people, brands to people, like brands to investors, like all of these different moments in which you're bringing in new people into the conversation, and they can bring their community, you can bring your community, and like, let's make something big and exciting and thoughtful here. And so that was always like, my wheels were always turning on that. And I didn't know when it was going to become something, but I was obsessed with the name Great Collab. And I would say to my friends, even like, we'd be like, oh, let's go get dinner at this place. And I'd be like, oh, it'd be such a great collab. And so it was kind of like this phrase I threw around. And I do have a notes page again in my iPhone from like 2018. That's like Great Collab Strategic Partnerships Agency. And I had this thought that I was going to like have this loft office where like the upstairs would be an office and the downstairs would be like a curated shop where it would be like collaborations between Great Collab and all of my clients, like these one-off products, which I'm totally giving away this like secret now, but
No,
whatever.
nobody listens to this. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Well, I'm going to do this. So don't steal my idea. But so I ended up last year, like almost a little over a year ago now, buying the domains to thegreatcollab.com, greatcollab.com, whatever, everything that I needed. Didn't know when I was going to use it, what I was going to use it for, but kind of started like, collecting the equity, and got the Instagram handle actually a few years ago. And for a while was just posting images of like great collabs, like brand collaborations that I loved. Wasn't really growing it. People like randomly would find it, but it wasn't anything. And then when I started posting on TikTok, I was like, I need a name for this, and I don't know what to call it. Let me not like invent another name. And sure, I could use my own name, but like I like the meme type of vibe on TikTok too. Mm-hmm. So I went with Great Collab, kind of just like started doing it. And so, yeah, there's like definitely a long origin story behind.
I like that.
Getting here.
It's interesting you brought up Art Basel, because I think the last time we saw you was actually at Art Basel at Marty's party, which
that's right.
Is interesting because first of all, I think you just wrote about vacation as one of your most recent newsletters, which I think is amazing. But also, I think you've done a really good job of covering events as well as brands, and like events being such a great opportunity to collab. What do you think the role of physical events has in like new collaborations that are happening? How essential is it for there to be an event or something to go alongside the actual product?
I mean, brands that I work with are gonna hate me for this, but I think it's super essential. And the reason I say that like they're gonna hate me is because you need budget for it, and it's like it's not always the easiest thing to put together an event. I'm sure it's, preaching to the choir. I'm sure you know this. But it's just such an opportunity to like bring something to life, and not at the rate that people are doing collaborations now. Like even as a collaboration lover, I do think that like people still need to be thoughtful in the collaborations they're doing. And sometimes you look at a collab and you're like, okay, like this feels like a little bit of just like someone trying to like reach for press. And that's not really how I look at collaborations. Like I think they genuinely need to make sense. And also I care a lot about functionality to products. So having events around a collaboration, I think is really important, because it like furthers the mission of like bringing communities together. And that to me is like the purpose of any collaboration. And I think even the way that you guys do events is so incredible and so thoughtful, and bringing together not just physical brands, but also people and people that you respect in the industry, and kind of like giving people a voice and amplifying what they're doing. And I think like that's what events do as well.
Agree. I'm going to put you on the spot. Did we make your Art Basel cutoff? And if we didn't, how do I make the Emma list next year? What do I need to do to make sure we're at the top 10 Art Basel events?
You gotta have some cool chairs.
Yeah.
Cool chairs.
Done.
I love it.
Done. You're going to love, so we had, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it was like a lot of design stuff. There was, I think I did a few art things, but I don't know. I really more into the design side.
That's certainly your a thing that I see come through in all of your work. It's something that you seem to care a lot about, is this the sense of like form and function in a lot of ways. In design, in particular in chairs. I think you've created a real strong personal brand about chairs. But at least that's what I know about you.
Are you on Chair Talk, Emma?
Yeah, we should do a little chair corner with Emma. What do you think that brands often miss out on in not paying attention to these spaces where design is present? Is that do you see it, or how do you sell it into an organization that overlooks the value of these more cultural affairs, especially around the design industry?
Yeah, I think like at the end of the day, like the brands that last and the brands that exist for more than just like a season is the ones that think about what is going to make their product timeless, and a lot of that has to do with craftsmanship. A lot of that has to do with building not around trends but around a brand that feels like it can exist for a long period of time. And I think the design fairs and these cultural, whether it's art fairs or other types of conferences that happen around the world, are like moments where a lot of these brands do come together. And even at Salone this year, like we saw a lot more not design brands popping up and hosting events and fashion. There's a lot of fashion brands that popped up. And I think it's an opportunity to be part of a conversation. Like design really touches every category.
Yeah.
Even if you don't think about it in that way. Like I don't think, I think people think about design as like furniture. And that's great. I love furniture. And that's like, that's just like the tipping point of design, but there's so much more to it. And so it's a really big opportunity to get in front of other brands. It's an opportunity, I think, when you're looking at like an Expo West, right? Like every brand in your category is there. Like go pop up at an event that, or like a conference or a fair where you can really stand out and you can build something and people can, turn their heads and be like, oh, wow, I didn't realize like XYZ brand was going to be here.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And so it's also a moment for like, talk about press around it. Like, let's like pop up in unexpected places. And, what does that look like when you pop up at like a culinary show and you're a direct to consumer brand? And like, are you partnering with a chef? Like, I think there's just moments to like think outside of the box and push the envelope a little bit when it comes to showing up in physical spaces.
What's the event calendar that you have ahead of you where you think that there's opportunity to activate? And is some of that on your sort of, personal bucket list versus a professional research bucket list?
Well, everything is professional research these days, right? No, but I mean, we have Design Week coming up in New York this week. It actually already started. I'm heading there on Wednesday. You have 3 days of design in Copenhagen. You have Shanghai is having a design week. I don't know if they have that every year, but obviously, there's a calendar of big fairs that happen every year, right? Like you have Basel in Basel, you have Basel in Miami. I'm not as deeply in this space as some of my peers are. And if you are deeply in the design space or you write full time for a magazine, you kind of are like, I feel like it's like a magic school bus that like goes around the world of like all these events. And so there's a lot of moments to pop up at. Like there's even a really cool art fair that happens in, I believe, like Baja California. Like there's a lot of stuff happening. And I think Salone is like the big design fair, right? And so every brand wants to go to Salone, but it's also like maybe you could be like big fish in a small pond somewhere else.
So design fairs are one thing. Getting furniture sold is another. Have you started to see like new connection points to how furniture gets into retail, and is that through collabs with brands that have like their own physical footprint? I know High Point like is like the pinnacle of furniture shows for like actual like B2B selling. Do you see like a pipeline of like from these shows to a show like High Point where things are actually getting sold? And is that shifting as a result of new collab opportunities, more direct to consumer like opportunities?
I've talked about this in videos before, which this is one of the videos that I got like absolutely trolled for. I talked about the millennialization of brands, and I said that like Williams-Sonoma doesn't really resonate with me, and that I wish that they would do a collaboration with like a younger brand. And the internet was like very unhappy with me for this. Like people were like, what do you mean? Like Williams-Sonoma is the best place in the world. And I just like walk into there and I don't really resonate with the space. And it's not that I'm looking for like pastel pans, but I just like want to see something new and interesting. And I think, I don't know, maybe even some chrome I'd like to see in there. Like they have like a Star Wars collection. I'm like, what's going on in here? So no disrespect to Star Wars, but I think we're going to see, and we've already seen this happening, but these bigger home brands, like you look at like a West Elm or a Crate and Barrel, like they kind of want what's like new and shiny. And so they're going to partner with these younger brands, and it's great for them. It's great for younger brands to get like a little bit of that credibility and also get into retail. Like direct to consumer furniture is like really not sustainable, and like it's not super scalable. It's very challenging. I mean, as even on the consumer side, like to purchase furniture online that you've never seen in person. I don't know if you've ever done it, but anytime I've ever done it, I'm like, this is the biggest nightmare. You're like on the phone with Wayfair customer service being like, help me.
Yes.
This is horrible. So I think there's definitely a lot of opportunities for smaller brands and bigger brands to partner. I'm not super familiar with High Point myself, but maybe that's because I'm not on the B2B side.
I think the real question here is, how can you take how can anyone that might be listening to this in their own context, or they're watching this in their own context, and they think to themselves, we already have budget allocated to X show where we're going to be supporting with a full team, like a full sales team, account team. Like how do we activate in ways that don't require us to have to go and marshal new budget? That's the thing I hear a whole lot, is that a company has created a culture around, these are the things that work for us. They have a calendar that they sort of commit to. And now we have to find ways of continuing to modify and question whether those things are sustainable for the future. For instance, in the retail and e-commerce trade ecosystems, there's been sort of a set fixed calendar around trade expos for such a long time that they have diminishing returns. And now we're a decade into a lot of these shows, and a lot of people are starting to say, like, I don't even go to the show anymore. Some people don't even buy a ticket to the show anymore. They only do the Halo events. And so you start to wonder about the economics of things like that. Is, okay, how do I take this idea and principle of DTC brands activating at cultural affairs and apply it in my own context? I think that's more the thinking, right, Brian, is like, how do you sort of find the commonality?
Yeah, definitely. Things like ways around some of the traditional selling opportunity is definitely. Now, Emma, I'm going to put you on the spot again. So
I'm in the hot seat.
I know. You ready for this one? If you had like a dream collab for future commerce, who would you match us up with?
This is like asking for free consulting, Brian.
I was kind of just feeling like I was like, am I on a consulting call right now? This really is putting me on the spot. Like I said, collaborations need to be intentional and thoughtful.
Yeah.
And I'm not using that as my scapegoat to get out of answering this question, but can you come back to me?
No, Here's a role play. What are some of the questions that you ask your consulting clients in order to identify what the sweet spot collabs could be?
Now we are getting free consulting.
No. But this is interesting, right? Like, because I think this leads to funnel for Emma. So Emma, like, call Emma right now. Great collab. No, but the real question being, sometimes I believe that some collaborations are just because that's what the owners and founders really wanted. Like, they wanted to work with people that were personal heroes or something. I've certainly been guilty of doing that in the past. And sometimes those work. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're vanity projects, and those are okay. But how do you graduate out of that, I guess, is the question.
I mean, the first question I like always kind of start with is about audience, of like, okay, who do you think your audience is? And who do you think their audience is? And is that the same? Or is that different? Or like, what does their audience provide to you that you don't have? Or what does your audience provide to that brand? Like, everyone wants to know who they're going to get in front of when they do a collaboration. And yes, like, you want it to be thoughtful and you want it to be beautiful, but like, at the end of the day, like, time is money too. And so you have to think about like who you're getting in front of and why you want to get in front of those people, because if that audience demographic is not going to resonate with you as a brand or your product or whatever the mishmash of the two products is, then it's like not really worth anyone's time to invest in creating that partnership. I think the best partnerships happen when the audiences are aligned on something. Like, it doesn't necessarily need to be like, okay, our audience is also like 35-year-old men and your audience is 30. Like, it doesn't need to be that specific, but it could be like, it could be location based, right? Like if a restaurant does a collaboration with a brand, like what does that look like? So definitely starting with like, who are you trying to reach and is this the right partner for that? Other questions are like, what type of collaboration are we doing? A collaboration could be like as simple as like, are we doing a social media giveaway?
Yeah.
Could be creating a whole new product. It could be doing an event. It could be bringing in a tastemaker or talent and doing a partnership. And so that's why I like talked about kind of all these different ways that partnerships exist too, because I think people think of like just brand to brand collaborations, and I think about it like on a lot larger of a scale of like, it could be people. It could be like the founder of another brand coming in and like designing something for your brand. Like, what does that look like?
Totally.
And so starting with like, what are we actually trying to make here too is really helpful versus just like, oh, we want to partner with an artist. Let's search for artists online.
Could be ephemeral. It could be like time tested. I think also like accessing new audiences, like you said, like they don't have to be a perfect match. That's super smart. Those are all really good pieces of advice. Thanks for the free consulting, Emma.
Yeah, I'll just bill you after. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead and send it to Brian. Brian, you'll have to process that one. If people are interested in working with you, tell us where, and maybe give us a little bit of a hint of what's next for you and some of the things we can expect from you in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah. So if you want to work together, you can just email me. You can find me on the internet. There's a lot. I'm on every platform at this point. But yeah, I'm really like I really want to focus on partnerships and community building. I think, and I talked about this before, I kind of think about it as like this Venn diagram of like content strategy, strategic partnerships, and community building. They all kind of need to like coexist and happen together. Because for, if we're doing a partnership, right, like we need to push it out places. Like, what does the campaign strategy look like around that? Where are we showing up? Is there like a retail moment around this? Are we doing an event? Is it an activation? Like, there's all these different pieces that fall into the content and community that happens around a partnership. The same thing if you're doing community building, who are you partnering with to amplify what you're building? And so really like thinking about this as like a trifecta of opportunity to drive conversation, drive growth, and create moments that feel really special and are worth it for a brand. Like, also budgets are tight and it's a hectic time. So thinking really like thoughtfully about what those partnerships are. And yeah, for what's up next for me, just working my job, my new job that I have, and figuring it out every day. Someone asked me like, who are you working with in the fall? And I was like, I don't think that's how freelance works. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I feel very lucky. I have 6 clients at the moment. I have 3 retainer clients, which are amazing. But I don't know what like the next few months looks like. I would love to spend some time on a pre-launch brand. I would love to spend some time kind of doing some like creative direction stuff. But I guess we'll just have to see. Maybe we could do a check-in in a couple of months.
That sounds
that's
like
great. And that is, I think, actually how that works is you do have to your first point, you have to take the leap. And it's I'm a firm believer that you get what you put out into the world. And so far, I think you have put out really valuable and incredible things. And I wish you all the best. Emma, This was a great collab, I think.
This was a great collab.
You and Future Commerce, and it has been. I thank you so much for championing partnership while you were at Thing Testing. We did some awesome stuff together over there, and I think speaking of people, I think Thing Testing had created and had some incredible talent that came through there, and I know whatever you do next is going to be incredible. That's why I think that this is so this just makes so much sense for you. Go check her out, Emma Chozick. Great collab. Go subscribe everywhere where content is found, especially on TikTok. I think it's really engaging there, especially the comments. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks, Emma. And don't miss our activation coming up. And I'm gonna give everybody a little bit of the inside track here. Future Commerce Plus members save 20% on all of our events, and you also save on print and merch at shop.futurecommerce.com. So join the membership, and you can cancel anytime. Little tip there, pro tip from Philip to you. Join us at the MoMA June 11th, futurecommerce.com/visions. And thank you so much for checking out this episode.